Carlos Sainz's future in F1 is still hanging in the air, and it seems like the smooth operator has a very logical choice in front of him apart from the Audi and Mercedes links in the past couple of weeks. Judging by the environment in which he would find himself if he were to join one of these two squads, the best decision for Sainz might be to join a team that's on the rise and can potentially compete for race wins from 2026 onwards, something Audi is very unlikely to achieve. So with this in mind, why is Carlos Sainz moving to Aston Martin the most logical choice he can make from 2025 onwards? Let's go into detail about it. It's safe to say that Carlos Sainz isn't shy of options when it comes to his F1 career, but the most logical solution for him at this point would be Aston Martin, and there are quite a few arguments in order to prove why. For starters, we'll go with why the other teams won't be such a good choice, so that you'll be able to understand the perspective of this video, which is based on purely analytical matters, and offers a neutral point of view of how things currently stand with Sainz and his future in the sport. While many experts dubbed him to replace Lewis Hamilton in what would essentially be a swap of drivers, it's not what Mercedes is looking for. They already have one very competitive driver in George Russell, and Toto Wolff said that this is the man who will inherit the leadership in the team from Lewis Hamilton. Although signing Alonso interferes with this statement, the two-time world champion is at the end of his career, and a couple of years in Mercedes to help get them on the right track and potentially win a couple of races, might even fight for a championship in his way, is what fits Mercedes' long-term picture better than having the competitive spirit of Sainz joining Russell from 2025 onwards. Furthermore, Mercedes has a very bright star that is currently racing in F2, Kimi Antonelli, who has been rumoured to join Mercedes as early as 2025. This, however, is definitely not the smartest option for Mercedes, because they're in a position in which they do not understand their car the best, whether it's a lack of knowledge back in the factory or lack of proper feedback from the drivers. But either way, in order for them to fix this issue, they would need a strong veteran presence, a driver who has experience winning races and championships, and that is exactly what Alonso is. I'm not saying Sainz won't bring value to Mercedes, I'm merely pointing towards the fact that he's just not the right fit for the team, due to the issues they're currently facing. And with Sainz being in his prime, the last thing he'd want is to join a struggling team or a startup project that is yet to show potential for fighting for race wins or championships. Especially if Mercedes is to kick him out again once Antonelli is showing his proper potential. Therefore, Mercedes could bring Antonelli into one of their affiliated teams to bring up an experience in the same way that they did with Russell. And in the meantime, Alonso would be helping the team build the championship-winning car they desperately need. Another very strong factor is the contract conditions. Sainz is very unlikely to sign 2 to 3 years with a team. He would be looking at something more of a long-term future and stability, and that's definitely not the desired scenario for Mercedes. On the other hand, you do have Audi, the team that has been heavily linked with Sainz even before Hamilton was announced to Ferrari, due to Carlos's father's very close relationship with the German manufacturer. However, by the time Audi joins the grid, Sainz will be 31 years old, and with Audi's projections to fight for race wins in 3 years after their entrance, Carlos will then be 34, which isn't the best scenario for him at all. Not to mention the fact that in 2025, he would have to drive for Sauber, a team that is effectively a backmarker now and a team that's very unlikely to be productive until 2026. So to jump from regular podiums to an environment like that just because of a big picture that might not even happen, it's definitely not written in the stars for Carlos Sainz. Another interesting team that would de facto present a reunion would be Red Bull, given the fact that Sainz started his career with Toro Rosso, and his first teammate was Max Verstappen. Obviously, Perez is without a seat from 2025 onwards, and while he did everything that was asked for him in the first 2 races, and is very likely to continue to do so, if Sainz challenges the second seat in the Drivers' Championships, he could be considered a strong candidate to replace the Mexican driver. But similar to Mercedes, the environment in Red Bull is not very prone to another competitive driver, and Sainz would really need to ask himself whether he'd like having Verstappen in this state as his teammate in the foreseeable future. Not to mention that if Perez fails to keep his seat, there are drivers like Ricciardo, Tsunoda and Liam Lawson who have the upper hand in receiving it due to their closer relationship with the Austrian team. You can either like him or not, but Carlos Sainz is a competitive driver, one who has a sharp mind and can often make his own strategies on the track, which has been proven time after time with Ferrari. The latest one was in the season opener in Bahrain, where he effectively beat Leclerc and Russell and was the fastest driver besides the Red Bulls. So that itself speaks to the fact that he has what it takes to be competitive. He just needs the right environment in order to succeed, and that environment, whether you believe it or not, could be found in Aston Martin. the team that's now struggling to keep Alonso at bay due to his high value at the driver's market. This is something that's been acknowledged by both Alonso and Aston Martin, and the two-time world champion said that after he assesses whether he wants to remain in the sport or not, he'll be making a decision on his future. But the most important factor would be to win races and fight for championships, not just run in circles around the track. And while this contradicts the motivation behind Carlos's potential move to Aston Martin, Alonso's challenge to Mercedes might be too big and lucrative to turn down. His marketing value is very important, and the Silver Arrows are in desperate need of a driver with tons of experience to put them in the right direction, which is not the case with Aston Martin, the team that's followed the path paved by Red Bull by hiring a bunch of engineers starting with Dan Fallows and is very likely to be competitive from 2026 onwards. Another huge thing that Sainz would consider is the factor of the number one driver in the team, something that he shouldn't have that big of an issue achieving with Lance Stroll being his teammate. I don't want to throw shade at the Canadian driver, but being the son of the owner of the team has its own perks, one of which is having a secured seat for as long as your dad leads the team. So fighting for the seat is definitely not what you will do in the foreseeable future. And if we're to listen to Aston Martin's statements, the Silverstone-based team is very optimistic about the foundation they have to build upon in the following years, potentially even challenging Red Bull for race wins and championships once their independent project with Honda starts in 2026. The fact that Aston Martin is becoming a team that will depend less on Mercedes in the new regulation era speaks volumes about their intentions in the sport. They are here to stay. They have the big bucks from Lawrence, and they need a driver who can take that car to the podium very frequently. Alonso did that in a regular manner in 2023 in the first half of the season, winning 6 podium finishes in the first 8 races. While Aston Martin did take a dip in performance due to the bad nature of the upgrades they brought, they now believe all of these things are fixed, and they are looking for a positive future, even though it might be without Fernando Alonso. What this goes to show for Sainz is that the change of scenery between Ferrari and Aston Martin won't be that big after all. He'll be joining a squad that has frequently challenged the Maranello team in the past couple of years, even though having Hamilton there from 2025 onwards will definitely prove to be a massive challenge to beat regardless of how much you invest in your team. Even F1 analysts like Karun Chandhok and David Croft went on to talk about the possibility of having Sainz in Aston Martin, and how it actually makes extremely huge sense for both sides to agree to this without giving it any second thoughts if Alonso is to leave for Mercedes. As Chandhok said, Audi are not going to win the World Championship in 2026, 2027 or 2028. So for Sainz, this is the prime of his career. He cannot afford to waste it with a new startup team. With this in mind, Carlos Sainz to Aston Martin might not be that far-fetched of a scenario after all. But the downside of it is that it's not up to him, as he needs to wait for his compatriot's decision when it comes to whether or not he'll remain with the Silverstone-based squad. If Alonso decides to stay with Aston Martin, then Sainz might lose one of the best options for his career, and it could effectively ruin his self-confidence driving for a team that wouldn't be so regularly in the points for many years. Where do you think Carlos Sainz will end up from 2025 onwards? And more importantly, do you think that Aston Martin is a good fit for the Spaniard? Let us know in the comments below.